like, comment, share, and subscribe.
I remember the track too.
I know you do.
Because those were the days when a lot of the black stations in the UK were all pirate stations. You'd be listening to it, and the next minute, plays will get raided. And then they'll move to another apartment.
And then they pop up again. I think Choice FM
started
is
the same way.
The famous.
Choice started the same way. The Commander B and all of them those days. Yeah, it was an interesting time. So you've been looking. Sometimes you go. It depends on which part of London you are. You're in North London, then you look for the station there where they were playing the songs. And the next minute it's off. Yeah. But eventually they liberalized it, just like it happened in Ghana.
Well, we had a similar story. In fact, that's what led to Dr. Charles Rekubobe being called Tarzan, because he was popping up everywhere like Tarzan swinging off tree branches. Well, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How was your weekend? In fact, how was Father's Day? Did you do what I did? I was taken out by my sons, and then I spent the money on Father's Day.
Okay. What did I do? Fortunately, I had my last born who is in town on our calls, but so spent some time with him.
Okay.
He wasn't feeling a bit too well in the morning, but so we did some medical rounds in the morning, and then in the afternoon we did fufu, even though I don't eat that, but I had some friends come over and some family members as well.
Okay.
So I stayed home, apart from the Nyaho round in the morning, stayed home for the rest of the day until I went to bed. But it was good, and of course the kids called. My daughter in Sweden, I had to remind her. And the reason being, in Sweden, they have different days for Father's Day.
I heard, it's quite interesting. I learned yesterday that in Italy, Father's Day is actually in March.
So we were chatting in the morning. She had called over one thing or the other. We were chatting. And she never said Father's Day. So in the evening, I called her back. And I said, at least wish me Father's Day as well. And where I am is not Father's Day. So okay.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. It wouldn't be front of her mind like that.
But it went well. At least she wished me Father's Day eventually, so that worked out.
Let's. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people who are waiting to hear everything. About
Thomas Partey was in the house as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Did he join the fufu party?
Yes, it was. He requested for the fufu. So came with his beautiful wife and daughter, and his mother, and a couple of people as well.
Nice. I mean, how has your relationship with Thomas Partey evolved? Because he's more a friend than he is a client.
Yes, he's a friend. He's a younger brother. Young enough to be my daughter. I say so because my daughter.
You have a daughter who's his age.
Who is 34, So.
Wow. And I mean, do you talk to him about some of his choices? I mean, he's at a point now where he has to decide whether he's staying at Arsenal or taking up on some of the offers that is being thrown at him.
Yes, I mean, I'm thick Arsenal fan. Just like you. I remember my brother walking, my older brother came into the house, the one who is a traditional ruler. And first thing he said was that, Thomas, you staying? and the interesting thing is that I was there with Samens, who is also a very serious Arsenal fan. And Samens and I said, no, don't stay. We Arsenal fans, but we're saying don't stay. You have a few years left. He was 32. He turned 32, I think Friday, same day as my daughter.
That's right.
Nana Dokia. And you're not getting younger. At best, he has 3 years left. 3 strong years left. So, I think the time to cash in.
Maximize whatever.
And then, of course, he's also been late in having his family. So I think really, for me, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I would like him to stay, but as a friend, I would want him to go elsewhere where he can get good money.
Okay.
For his pension. Football 35, 36.
The twilight. Cash in while you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been regarded as Ghana's Prime Minister in the last 8 years. I mean, are you aware of that though?
I think the last time I checked, our constitution was clear that we have a president, a vice president, and ministers and members of parliament and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it actually started because I believe in 2017. I mean, if you remember all the speculation, Gabby is going to go to this ministry. All manner of titles were given to me, even including chief of staff, cabinet minister, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, Akufo-Addo gave me nothing. Not even a board member. Not even an assembly member. You know, government can appoint a few people on some assemblies. He gave me nothing. You know, so I think Ghanaians decided to give me a title because they couldn't believe that Akufo-Addo could be so mean to me. That's a joke.
I know.
You know? But it was quite funny. I think it must have been maybe the Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2025. And I think that was the first time I met with President John Mahama after his inauguration, and he said, who did you hand over your prime ministerial position to? At the moment, I had Joyce Bauer and Stan next to me. I said, maybe a combination of them. It could be supported by Ibrahim, perhaps.
The mischief you get up to.
Yes, but it's just, I think I take it as one of those jokes or whatever. But it got a bit burdensome, I suppose, where you are given responsibilities that you don't have, and you are blamed or given credit for things that you know very little about. Because sometimes the impression was created as if I actually worked at the presidency. But I just used to go visit my cousin, my friend, and my mentor, usually around 11 p.m., just to go have a conversation, to relaxing, because you spend the whole day having meetings and stuff. And Akufo-Addo would stay in the office to about 1:30 a.m. So I would go there sometimes after midnight, sometimes after 11:30. When I finish my work on my way home, fortunately, you have an understanding wife that can help as well. And just have, it can be conversation just to make him relax. And it's not necessarily about matters of governance. But of course, if there's something that he wants to pick your brain on, he will tell you. But you don't go interfering, as it were. And of course, because of your proximity with him, as some would say, you can walk into his room or bedroom or that sort of thing. When people have issues too, they can come to you because they know you have access to him. So you become like maybe what's it called? You become a conduit, if you like. And I think you just have to do it responsibly, because it's also how you use access to people in leadership. If you abuse it, they themselves will pull away from you. But you need to, because it's very lonely up there. The presidency is a very lonely place. And I'm sure you can ask President Akufo-Addo or President John Mahama, they will tell you. And really, those who are privileged enough to be close to the president or to a president or to the president, it's how you use it. And because you are trusted, and you should be trusted to give him information, even if it goes against your interest. That sort of thing. So it's but I think we've been, is my senior brother, so to speak. He respects my view on things, and I learned a lot from him as well. So I think we had a good relationship, and it's still there. So I'm glad that even when he hears things about me, because the person knows you and trusts you and knows your level of integrity and the rest of it. And I think that's very rare. That especially in this space where we're in, there's a lot of rumors. Sometimes you look in the mirror, you don't even recognize yourself because of what people say about you. So to have people who trust you and who have a regard for your integrity, your view on things, I think it's a privilege.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that the space has lots of rumor mills running at the same time. Some of the rumors include that you decided who went where. Did you have that much power over the president?
Well, I mean,
or influence rather.
I decided to employ you at Asasi, but it was up to you to come to Asasi.
Okay.
Is that not the case?
It is.
Absolutely. I took no such decision. There's a difference between power and influence. And if you get the two confused, the one with power will even see you as a problem. What you cannot do is pretend to be what you are not. And if the person in the seat, and I told you it's a lonely place, if the person feels that they need to pass something off you, they will pass something off you. And the thing is, you may sit at a position where others may lobby through you, and that kind of thing. But as to taking decisions, no. I mean, no.
Let's dive into.
It doesn't mean that if I know Inshira is good at spreading rumors and there's a job for a rumor monger.
A rumor monger. You'd make the recommendation.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, like you're saying, it's still up to the person who makes the ultimate decision to decide. We've come off an election in December where the NPP lost.
I thought we'd be talking about Asasi.
No, we'll talk about Asasi in a bit. We're talking about. Asasi is a very nice, juicy conversation. I want to get all the people's questions out of the way.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
This is the first time you're actually speaking since the elections, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, since I got some big burden taken off me, yes.
I mean, how did you take the results of the election?
First of all, NDC winning was not a surprise because historically, after a while, the country moves on and that sort of thing. And then, of course, there were a lot of challenges. But I think it was the size of the defeat, rather than, if you like, the size of the victory. I think it's the size of defeat that surprised me. I wasn't surprised the results John Mahama got. But I was surprised the results the MPP got. I think I'm not alone. I think a lot of people. Yeah.
Well,
it was a difficult election. There's absolutely no two ways about it. But I think it's just the size of the defeat that I think surprised some of us. Yeah.
I'm going to keep the audience guessing. We're moving away from this. We'll come back to MPP and politics in a little while.
No
but
problem.
Let's talk about Asasi. So 5 years ago, Asasi Radio started. And it started with a bang. I mean, my first exposure to the brand was a social media post of some of the nicest photos of a radio station I'd ever seen. What was the inspiration for the vision?
That's a good question. As you know, I've been a media person for decades. And I felt that there was still space, and I hope that we are the space that I saw were in a few folds. One, a station that is not just one city based. Okay? Because if you notice with other media houses, they have different, stations across the country, but a station that is actually nationwide in terms of its brand, in terms of its name, and also as much as possible content.
Okay.
But also has also local content, strong local content. Okay, so that's one. I also felt that we didn't have in the radio space, we didn't have a station that was also Pan-African. I'm not too sure even if you have lived up to the vision that I had. Because when you listen to news on all the major stations, it's about Ghana. When you listen to the content of production, whether it's current affairs, we are too provincial or parochial in our outlook. We never, unless a pope is dead, okay, or a major president has been shot somewhere. But in terms of our newspapers, of course, newspapers, they have a world page, but you won't see, even on front pages, you never see any international news being carried on our front pages. The same with radio stations, the same with TV stations. It's as if it's about Ghana or it's about Accra. So I wanted a station that was, first of all, Pan-African in its outlook, and secondly, connects the world to Ghana and Ghana to the world. That's also the case. And I also felt that yes, there were a couple of stations where, when it comes to English speaking, who were dominant. So I thought there was still space for one more. So I think that was the motivation. But I didn't know it was such a costly venture.
Has it been? How has it been? I mean, 5 years in, are you thinking you've bidden too much, or there's hope?
No, I think, first of all, I am proud about the kind of dedication that the staff, management have shown over there. Because, it's, if you look at how saturated the space is, and I think the prominence that Asasi has received within a relatively short period, 5 years, I think is major. And kudos to the management and staff. I think it's major. It's really, really, really major. And on the other hand, I'm also proud about the quality of content. I think we build a brand that doesn't feed on sensationalism, okay, but is able to focus on substance and still be interesting. And I think that, for me, is key. And one thing I also don't like, and I'm happy Asasi doesn't do it, is that sometimes you get the impression that some stations or some go out there to trip people. I mean, it's some ego trip, and as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't. Journalism is not necessarily trying to make someone look bad, trying to make a country look bad, trying to make a government look bad, but it's about finding the answers to the questions that your audience are looking for. It's about being courageous enough to ask the tough questions, and also bear in mind that you're also dealing with personalities. You are dealing with reputations and that sort of thing, whilst at the same time you need to balance probing with also people's reputation, and that's something that I think in journalism we don't get right. But I'm quite happy with how Asase does it. I mean, you can go all out and be sensational and get all the following and all the hits and that sort of thing. But I think our business calls for some sort of a level of responsibility, particularly in this day and age where any little thing then goes viral. And I think Asasi has done well. We don't always get it right, I must say, but I also feel that I'm proud of what we've done, and I believe that we have exciting times ahead. What we came in at a very tough time where one, the whole media landscape has moved a lot more to digital, and I think that we have done well to plug into that space, because that's a space that it doesn't necessarily matter how long you've been there. It's how interesting you are there, and I think we're doing so well. But we are doing well not necessarily by attacking personalities, and that I like. Not necessarily. I mean, I remember some people came to me and said, "Wow, now that NPP is in opposition and NDC in office, it means that you're going to go all out and take the position of regime changing." I mean, it is not our job to change regimes. It is our job to ensure scrutiny and quality of information, put government and people who are responsible, who have the mandate to run the affairs of the state on their toes, but it's not our job to seek to change regimes. It's our job to offer information to those who make the changes on 7th December, to make informed decisions, and I think that's what we do.
Right. A number of comments are coming, questions. I think Atu Addison is asking about, he says, what do you think about some of the allegations that Asasi did not help the MPP ahead of election 2024?
Allegation? I've never heard this allegation. Have you?
Not that I know.
That's right. What were we supposed to do? Go and vote for MPP?
I don't know. I think maybe that the station would, as you're saying, that the expectation of some people to say, okay, now that the MPP is not in government, this station, obviously owned by you, would go all out against. But you've talked about the position. Do you see Asasi as a station that should be doing, for the lack of a better expression, take a position because of your political ideology?
I think we should take a position, and I think we are taking a position. Okay. And the position is to serve the interests of the Ghanaian people. That's first and foremost. And we should also, look, it is not strange to have a station that may have a philosophical leaning towards a tradition, a political tradition, an ideology. There's nothing wrong. We see it in America. Yeah. And if you look at it, for instance, a country where you could say by and large half is MPP, half is NDC. I think it is not even marketing wise, it's not necessarily bad if you are seen as associated with one side. I don't think that's even the issue. The issue is the quality of content, of the content. I think that really is the issue, in the sense that even if you are perceived, because of the people who own it or are behind it, you are perceived to be pro this or pro that, can you be trusted with the information that you give? And the perception itself, it may allow people to rely on you because they know that they will get the news that they are looking for, the information that they are looking for, the people that they want to hear. Okay, but is the quality, is the because when it comes to facts, there must be objectivity. As to how you spin it, it may be up to you, but you must be true to the facts. You must be true to your listeners, because your listeners must know what to expect. And I think with Asase, what I think we did in our first 4 years was that we gave a platform to those in charge of running the affairs of the state, okay, to come and speak, but at the same time that they will be asked the questions that our listeners want answers to. And I think that's been it. I don't know how our staff here, I don't know how they vote. Know that I probably personally care, but it's not up to me. And I don't think when people come looking for a job here, you are asked which political colors that you wear. But I'm proud of what we've achieved, and I think because of, and it's, for me, I even found it insulting that people thought that a station which had Gabby there would necessarily mean that it would be slavish in its attitude towards politics. No. Even when I was editor of Statesman, and Akufo-Addo was the owner, he would call me sometimes and have a fight with me because he's gone to cabinet and one of his colleagues was attacking him because I'd written an editorial against something. But he had nothing to do with the paper because he left me to do it. So, yes, I'm clearly, if you cut my skin, the blood, the DNA is Danko Dombo Buzia. There's absolutely no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But I was also trained as a journalist, and I think I'm Ghanaian first. So and I think that I'm not too sure that the station, anybody here will say that Gabby calls you to determine what you write. Of course, if I have information, I'll pass it on. If you do something that I think that you could have done it better, I can correct it, or I can attempt to draw your attention to it. But I think I'm happy with that. And I think for some people, they thought, and I don't want to mention any particular station, but they thought we'll toe a certain line. I don't think that serves, because and I have this thing that even if you want, what is important is to be listened to by a wide audience. I think that's very important, and I think we've achieved that, but I don't think we should be shy about our association with Gabby. It's not necessarily negative.
It's quite interesting you say that, because in the mind of at least one person listening to us and on Facebook, couldn't help but still call you Prime Minister GOD. And it says, this is Ro. I'm happy about your vision for the establishment of Asasi, its affiliates in other regions. My question is, why don't you allow Asasi to operate without your name's association and allow the station run on merit of professionals, personality to run the station? He basically saying, can you keep it the Despite Media style?
What is the Despite Media?
I have no idea, but I think maybe, do you think that there's a potential for people to say that your association with the station is front row? I mean, you post everything we do. You're sharing everything.
Why do I do that?
Well, of course, to promote the station, right?
Absolutely.
It's your investment.
And I think I have enough followers. I'm not too sure.
At some point, you had more than us, but yeah. I just say it before.
and it's so that's what I do. And of course, yeah, if they pay the bills, they will understand that.
Well. So you got answers to your questions. We will be going into other things. It's exactly 53 minutes past 8 on the Asasi Breakfast Show. We're celebrating our 5 years.
In any event,
yes.
Despite, is he a journalist?
He's not.
Has he got journalism background?
No.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman, yes.
So maybe his inspiration for setting up a station is different from mine. Yeah.
Quite possible. Quite possible. Let's talk about something that you founded as well, and this is the Africa Prosperity Network. Also Pan-African. I wouldn't say that you're Pan-African. I wouldn't know by just looking at you. But it seems that there is a certain Pan-African heartbeat about everything you do. In fact, we'll talk about African Legal Associates, which is now Africa Legal Partners. What's the thing with Pan-Africanism in the stuff that you do?
I think, I think there's so much to us as Africans, and if we can just get together and get things done, all right? And I'm saddened by the fact that we continue in so many ways to be defined by the territories and boundaries determined for us by those who sought to suppress us and colonize us, that sort of thing. And for me, that I think is the biggest challenge. Look, this continent, we are 1.5 billion. In maybe 10 years from now, we will hit 2-point-something billion. Okay? There's a lot that we can do if we work together, especially in this digital age. Okay? If you remember, was it last year? And we were pushing for continent-wide mobile money interoperability.
That's right.
And the vision behind it is pretty simple. Look, how many years have we not been trying to set up a common currency for West Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The convergence criteria. Today, Ghana will be okay with inflation.
But Togo won't.
Togo won't. Tomorrow, we will meet 2 of the 4 or 5. So it's been challenging. Okay? So, but we thought that if we push for the governments, particularly, it was all part of this whole push for the digital trade protocol that AU signed up to last year. It was all part of that push. And if we can allow a young woman entrepreneur in Tamale who has been able to maybe come up with a share better product, okay, to go on Instagram, market it, and a shop in maybe Windhoek in Namibia can see it on Instagram and place an order in Namibian dollars, and then the lady in Tamale can receive it in Ghanaian cedis. If we start doing that, then the next question is that we lack the logistics and the transport network to get these things going. But I believe that once you create the demand and the supply, and you meet the two, okay, the incentive will be there for investors to build the transport and logistics that will link the two. Okay, so that we have our own Amazons and that sort of thing. So for me, it's one of the shortest cuts to achieving economic integration. And if we achieve economic integration, then I think that will be such a major force for ourselves in creating jobs for the youth, in creating an environment of shared prosperity across the continent. Because at the end of the day, I've seen something happening, especially on the continent. Yes, we have the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area. And I can see some countries, some investors waking up to it. And I see that especially from the Chinese, where there was, if you notice now, China is the biggest trade partner for Africa. Yeah. Okay. And the trend has been that we go there to buy finished products and then we bring them to Africa. But I've seen that the Chinese are also thinking that, wait a minute, now they've sorted out the rules of origin, which means that things that are produced within the continent, whether semi-production in a sense that is part of the manufacturing chain, those things enjoy some preference status, preferential status, if it's been exported to another African country. So once you have the rules of origin sorted out, it may eventually become cheaper to buy from products from another African country than outside of the AfCFTA zone. The Chinese are waking up to it, and they are setting up factories on the continent. Okay, so because they're realizing that, look, Japan became big economically, not just because of their GDP, but their GNP as well, because you had Japanese
manufacturing outside of Japan.
Absolutely. The Chinese are doing that, and they see the future in terms of population is this continent. It's estimated that we have over 350 to 400 million middle class on the continent.
Wow.
And it's growing. Okay? So if that is what is happening and the Chinese are seeing it, now the competition on the continent should be, what are the trade policies that I will have as a country, as part of this AFCFTA zone, that will make Ghana attractive for those who want to come and set up their manufacturing base on the continent. So that's where the competition is. It's not necessarily among ourselves in terms of who exports raw material outside, but in terms of what domestic policies, trade policies can you implement in order to attract investors who are seeing the single market that we are creating on the continent. So the whole idea of the Africa Prosperity Network, okay, is that we have created a unique platform where businesses on the continent come meet at least once a year with the political leaders, with the thought leaders, with the institutional leaders, and we have a one-item agenda. How do we build with urgency the single market that the continent has? Because ours is the largest single market in terms of members, okay, member states, 54, 55.
Well, it makes sense. We're the largest continent.
We are, but 20 years from now, or even 15 years from now, our population will outpace that of China, that of India. We are getting there. We're already getting there, and then we have the fastest growing middle class, So really, our leaders should not just be thinking of Ghana. They should be thinking of how they position themselves, their country, their economy, their human resource to take advantage of the single market that's been built. And I think that having the secretariat here, okay, is itself an advantage that we must exploit. And I was quite happy, of course, when I came up with the idea. I was in Davos, actually. I was in Davos and I was sitting with, I think, in a meeting. I think they were just about to have, I think I went to the president's where he was staying, and I saw his finance minister, his foreign minister, his secretary, and others. And I've been doing Davos since the 90s, and I just hate the idea that sometimes you're even slipping because it's so icy and it's cold, and you can't even get a place to stay. So you usually end up in a house where Airbnb, and then whether they're cats or dogs, and of course they've taken them out, but the place is
they leave reminders.
And I was thinking, but why do we have to do this? Why do we have to go all the way to this, poxy little place up in the hills of Switzerland to go and discuss matters, and we are just an appendage as Africa. So that's when I came up with this idea. And in fact, when we started, we wanted to call it a Kwaku Summit because we wanted to do it up on the Kwaku Mountains. Except we were targeting Rock City, but it wasn't ready at the time. But I think really, so what we have done is, because you get all the big businesses coming together, they even begin to now see how they can collaborate. Okay? And the issues that they have, because you have the political leaders there, you have the institutions that give them money, whether it's AFDB, whether it's AfriEx and Badia, all of them are brought under one roof. That conversation, and to know that every year we can meet, review the work done. Okay, we are doing in partnership with the AFCFTA Secretariat.
That's right.
Review the work done. I think that's been useful. And I was also quite happy. So we got a lot of support, not support in terms of money, but support in terms of presidential weight from Akufo-Addo. And it was also, I think, a surprise to many, but not a surprise to some of us, because our current president is also a Pan-Africanist, that we got the support from from President John Mahama and his government. And we're quite grateful to that, because I think really sometimes we must look beyond our own internal divisions and see the things that we can do together to position Ghana right at the center of this movement for a single market, because Ghana can be the commercial hub of the AFCFTA.
And you haven't stopped here in Ghana. I'm reliably informed that the APN is hosting a forum in Malabo in Equatorial Guinea next month.
So we do about three, four things every year.
Okay.
One, we do the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, which happens very early in the year, and we do it just before the AU Summit, mid-February, second, third week of February. And to let that inform, so it keeps the political leaders, when they meet, at least they know what the business community on the continent thinking. So we do that early in the year. Then we have what we call, at the end of the 3-day conversation, we come up with a compact, and the issues that are teased out of the dialogue into the compact, we pick one or two and then push the advocacy forward. For instance, the chairperson of our advisory council, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, said something quite interesting when we had the last APD. She said that, look, we have over 350 million middle class on this continent. We are talking about the deficit, infrastructure deficit in connecting our continent, because that's what the conversation was about.
That's right.
How do we build the roads to connect our continent, the railway? How do we make flying easier? Visa, blah, 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 the rest of it. And he said, if we have a annual deficit of about 100 and something billion, 130 billion, 115 billion, wherever you want to place it, and we are struggling to fill that gap, and particularly at a time that there's aid fatigue, at a time that the West is also getting tired of not their taxpayers are getting tired because they are also struggling economically. If we have all this, then why can't we look within? So she brought this concept of $1 a day. So imagine if you have 50 million Africans or Pan-Africanists or global Africans, because when you talk about Africa, we talk about global Africans, as in those in the diaspora, whether first, second, third generation or so. If you have a fund, dedicated to filling this gap and building the infrastructure that will connect us, and this fund, you can say that, for instance, we want to build a railway link from east to west. It will cost $5 billion. And then you've done the bankability analysis, so you've made a business case for it. It is endorsed by the AU. You have institutions such as AFDB, Badia, AfriExim, all of them coming together to set up a particular fund. And the funding of it will be crowd, as in crowdfunding. And you are targeting Africans or friends of Africa who have disposable income that they can give $1 a day to be shareholders. So that translates into $365 from you, Ishra. And 50 million of you.
That's 18.25 billion a year.
And if we say that the first project that we are targeting for the first year, is to build a railway link from south to north, east and south, and that will cost us 60 billion.
Oh, Gabby, I want you to go over this again. No, it's mind-boggling, because
the things we can do.
We were out at the IMF, right? We're still going through this 3 billion thing. Other African countries are in a queue going there. But if we only took 50 million people,
out of 1.5 billion,
50 million, each doing $1 a day, we would raise 18.25 billion
a year.
dollars a year.
And when you raise 18 and if you speak to bankers, they will tell you that when you raise 18 point something billion, you can use it about 3 times over.
Yeah, you can leverage easily.
So the potential is there, but we must first be deliberate in, what's the term that they use? Conscientizing, is that the word? This is such a word.
Orienting.
Yes, for Africans in the diaspora, if you like, for the middle class on the continent to know that, look, it would not hurt me to make a contribution if you can convince me about the integrity of the fund, if you can convince me that these are the specific projects that the fund will be used for, okay? And I know that I can wait maybe 10 years even to get my dividends, because it's not much, $365 for many Africans, for millions, tens of millions of Africans, it's not much. You know, for a lot more it will be much, but we can find that critical mass, okay? Out of the 400 million middle class, you can find that critical mass of 50 million. Out of the 200 million Africans in the diaspora, okay? Some put it at 250. You can find that 5 million, okay? Who will be willing to do so on top of the remittances that they bring home every year. You know, so that really is, but you know, that idea must be, so we are pushing it. So what are we doing? Last year, we had a mid-year event, but it was in 2 ways. We did a symposium about mobile money interoperability.
That's right.
And then we followed it, and we came out with a document which was endorsed by the President of the Republic. This came out from the meeting where we had MTN, we had Safaricom, we had all the big fintech companies and mobile money operators and telco operators on the continent, where they all came together. So the document that came out of that, we got the support of the government of Ghana, because the mid-year AU mid-year coordination meeting took place in Accra. Yeah. And that is the meeting where all the regional blocks come together to look at issues technically. And our president presented that document, among other things, as he presented, and it was fully endorsed. You know, so really it's about how to get this continent-wide mobile money interoperability working, because if we can get that working, okay, then we have a shortcut of connecting a continent where over 85% of people doing business are within the SME space, okay? And it's easier for them to just trade using their mobile digital platforms, okay? So once we get these things going, I think we'll be getting somewhere. So in Malabo, they are having the 7th AU Mid-Year Coordination Meeting taking place in Malabo on July 13th. And what we did here last year was also, as a side event, if you remember, there was Badea's 50th anniversary.
That's right, there was a side
We
event.
organized it because I think Asasi was even involved in it. We organized it for Badea. And it was that event that CD, Dr. Sidi Wuta, who is now the president-elect for AFDB, launched what he called the Africa Arab Financial Consortium, which then brings together all these multilateral financial institutions on the continent with those of the Arab world, and see how they can increase financing for projects on the continent. You know, so this year, the mid-year meeting is in Malabo, July 13th.
Right.
And we've had the support of the government of Equatorial Guinea, which is also has just begun with what it calls Invest Equatorial Guinea, i.e. their version of GIPC. So we are working with them and the government and the AFCFTA to have another breakfast meeting before the AU coordination meeting itself, where we will be talking about this $1 a day. We'll be talking about the SAATM, you know, this single market, air travel market. I don't know which, you know, because what it is that it's difficult to travel across the continent.
Right. Let's pause this a second. Take a look.
Right. So indeed, we wanted to find out exactly. I want to flip back to politics. And Gabby, good to see you. Belated Happy Father's Day, by the way. I want to flip back to politics. Now, the leadership of the National Democratic Congress last year, for instance, instructed its members not to engage with Asasi Radio. And the reason they gave was unfavorable media coverage and perceived bias. How does this affect you? Does it bother you that the biggest party, besides the New Patriotic Party, doesn't want to engage with a burgeoning station like Asasi Radio?
Was it last year? I don't think it was last year. I don't think it was last year. I think it was. It was in, when Asasi started 2020. I don't think it's because they couldn't prejudge how Asasi was going to be. Right. But then, for them, it was a tit for tat. I don't think it was because they thought Asasi was pro MPP. It was a tit for tat thing. They thought that some stations had been closed down at the time by the NCA, and then they thought that, and then they've set up, and of course it's a Gabby station. So for them it's like, if you've set up the station, we are not going to, because some stations of NDC had been, or stations perceived to be or associated with the NDC had been shut down. So it was a tit for tat thing, and I think. Maybe you should ask Sami Jemfi. He will know more about this than I do. But we still had people coming on the station. But I think it was for me. I mean, I spoke to a lot of them. A lot of them are Siedun Katia. They seem to be okay. Some of them come to this station. But I think at that time, Sami Jemfi took a decision. Okay, it was a political decision that he took. If they still stand by it, but it's not just. I mean, even there. We mentioned Despite. There's a station that they also boycotted, But Asasi was boycotted even before it started, So how could you then prejudge that it was going to be biased? I think it was because of my association with the station, and then they felt that some stations associated with the NDC had lost their license, and even when they got a license, perhaps. They forgot that they had boycotted Asasi, so they still stayed away. But I don't think, I'm not too sure that it is an official ban, because NP people come to the station, and I think perhaps you should be more proactive in reaching out to them. And after all, Sami Jemfi is too busy taking care of our gold, so hopefully he has other more important things to focus on.
Right. Again, you are very active on social media. I follow you on Facebook and Twitter as well. Very vocal on topical issues. The recent one was about the directive by the National Communications Authority and the closure of Asasi. You made the posts, and a few minutes after making that post, it garnered a lot of comments. And when you go through the comments, the things you read, so much negativity being tossed in your way. I want to find out from you, do you read social media comments, and how do you manage the vitriol that is tossed in your way?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, first of all, I tell my kids not to read any comments on my social media page. For me, that's the most important thing. Do I read them? You want the honest truth?
Yes.
I hardly do. I don't. Once in a while, but I don't. And have you seen me engaging people on social media? I don't. I say what I want to say. Take it as you like. I mean, look, I have over 500,000 people on Twitter. When I tweet, I see more likes than the insults. So if people want to insult me, it's up to them. I've gotten my message across. Does it bother me? I have a feeling that they will find another Gabby in the next few months or a year or two and move on. I was telling a very good friend in this government that the very people who were praising you just last year, they will turn against you soon. And it may not be anything of your doing, but just the position that you are in. And the fact that you are now a person, because a person with authority, with influence, in a position of power, the things that you said and they praised you, those very things, the impact is different. And I'm taking lessons from myself. I mean, I remember when this whole DDEP started.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the victims of the debt restructuring in Ghana. A big victim of it, because from my early days in the country when I returned, it is what I used to invest in, you know, in terms of looking after your children's fees and the rest of these are some of the areas that we play. And I was one of the first people to come out to say that, look, we have very little choice if we're to save the economy, okay? And it is voluntary. But I will urge as many of us as possible to participate in order to save the economy. And you know, the heroes of this country, I see before the elections, the MPP were talking about how they turned the economy around, okay? And projecting growth of over 5.7% and the rest of it. And since the elections, we hear President John Mahama, his finance minister, taking credit. Oh, it's our policies. No, the credit should go to the unsung heroes, the victims of the DDEP, the people, the ordinary Ghanaian people. I'm not even going into the international bond market. I've heard figures being thrown about, maybe about 800,000 or so. Now the 800,000, they're not necessarily individual bondholders, but because maybe mutual fund and the rest of it, okay? But these are the heroes of whatever economic revival or recovery you're having. These are the unsung heroes. Because they, of course, they didn't suffer a haircut. We didn't suffer a haircut on our principal, but we suffered a haircut on what we expected, our coupon. Anything between 9 to, I think, if I've forgotten the figures, but some percentage, okay? A major haircut. And it is out of that, because you were looking at about 132 billion Ghana cedis. And this is different from the BOG ones that could not be marketed. But 1.32 billion cedis were involved, okay? And the savings made, and when you say savings made, it means that the expectations of we, the bondholders, that were lost was about 61 billion Ghana cedis, okay? So it gave the government, and if I say government, I mean the Akufo-Addo government and the current government, the breathing space, okay, to be doing some of the things that they are doing, okay? And these are the heroes. But when we are hearing about, oh, it's because of gold for oil, or it's because we have sold our reserves, those were all part of it. But in terms of the individual heroes, were the Ghanaians, the bondholders, who sacrificed, whether voluntarily or not. Okay, and if we can find a way to show appreciation as a country, I think that will go a long way.
Wow.
And when I spoke about it and advised them to do it, when at the same time I was saying that, but let's find a way that the pensioners can be exempted from it. One lady that I have a lot of respect for some reason, whether she was getting too emotionally, whatever, said some very needless stuff without understanding what I was trying to say. But sometimes I was bold enough to go and say, look, it looks like we will be going to IMF. People didn't like that. But those are the realities, and I'm not afraid to say certain things when I see us going that way, you know. And it comes with a lot of hate. And to be honest with you, I looked forward to 7th January 2025. I wasn't looking forward to John Mahama and the NDC winning, but I was looking forward to that date so that the pressures of Gabby may then shift to some others.
So that's what you meant by the burden that was lifted on you, off of you. Right. And I'm glad you...
Even when I tweet about Arsenal, they insult me.
You know? Yeah. Oh, wow. If you just tuned in, it's 25 minutes past 9 on the Asaase Breakfast Show. And we're having a conversation with a man whose vision birthed the Asasi platforms here in Accra on 99.5, in Kumasi on 98.5, in Cape Coast on 100.3, and also in Tamale on 99.7. You do know we have a dedicated Akan brand on 107.3. That's Asasi Pa. But you're hearing this conversation around this country on our platforms and also around the world via Facebook, on the stream, also on AsaseRadio.com. And I'm Kwaku Insharado, and here with Fritz Delanya Makashi. Now, Chairman Gabby, I have a few more questions. I want us to go back to the politics, like I mentioned earlier, that we will do. A few days ago, the running mate to Dr. Baumia let it out that he had been called by Ioko or the OSP or something. Have you been invited or called by any of them? Ioko?
Why should I?
I don't know.
Why should I be?
You are seen as as somebody who had access to the corridors of power, to the number one man in the land,
so
and
that
as influential.
That requires investigation.
No, I'm only asking what the people are asking.
I think sometimes some people actually forget that I'm a lawyer, and I'm a senior partner in a corporate law firm, and that's essentially my main job. Okay, as to whether I was close to government or not, I influenced the government. I never held any political position, and that's a decision that I took. And when I tell people I'm not a politician, they don't believe me. I've always considered myself as a political strategist, and I was very much involved in the politics of this country. And I think it was right in the studio last year that I said that I've moved on from frontline politics. It doesn't mean that I'm not involved in politics, but the frontline politics that I used to do, I think I've moved on.
So we won't see you in marches anymore?
I mean, if we are marching for economic integration, yes, you'll see me as a continent. Okay? But I mean, my DNA is Danko Dombo Buzia. There's absolutely two words about it. In whichever way I can support, I will do so. But it's the frontline politics that I don't. Yes, I have. The last time I was at NIB, and I believe it's probably once for a very long time. It was actually to represent the client. Okay. The clients, was questioned about a client's issues, but to be questioned about what? I mean, that's I don't know. Why are you expecting me to be?
Oh no, not me. Someone's wondering and asked, so I'm just sharing their questions.
But I mean, if they have some questions and I'm in a position to give answers, I'm free to go.
Absolutely,
I have no problem with that.
I mean,
they have to do their work, but I think in doing their work, sometimes, I have to mention this. I'm disgusted about how Ken Ofrata has been treated.
I was about to ask you about that.
I'm disgusted.
Have you been in touch with him since his surgery?
Of course.
How's he doing?
He's doing well. I think he's on an intensive recovery.
Okay.
For the next couple of weeks at least, and then I'm sure, But it went well. It went well, and we thank God for that. It went well. But I think that I have been disgusted about how he has been treated. And the Ken Ofrata that I know came to politics not for personal gain. He came to politics because he believed he could serve. And we saw what happened in the first 4 years that he was finance minister. Of course, matters just, we saw what happened, especially after 2021. And I think when I hear the conversation about what the country went through, I think we forget one thing, and I'll get to that, but let me finish with Ken. I think we've been unfair to him. And I will say this for a fact. Because, yes, for the first 4 years, we saw the work that he did. Akufo-Addo's vision, ambitious as they were, about free education, the roads that were done. We moved Ghana's road network from about 78,000 to nearly 100,000 kilometers. Okay? And you need to fund these things. The flyovers that were built. Okay? Nearly 1,000 SHS blocks that were built. You need to fund those things. The primary schools that were built, the kindergartens that were built, you need to fund these things. The food for whatever program, is it cash? What is it? Planting for food and jobs. Yeah. Okay, 1D, 1F. You know, all these things, the Zongo, all these things, you needed to find money to fund it. At the same time, you had a banking crisis, which required about 25 billion to fix. At the same time, you were expanding facilities, whether it's health, whether in health, whether in the agri sector, whether in education, whether in sports. You have to find money for all these things. And then you were employing more people within the public sector. You were equipping the police. You were equipping the military in ways that we had never seen in this country. And these are the facts. The facts are there in terms of the revenues that had to be mobilized, the work that had to be done. Akufo-Addo came and he was in a hurry. Okay? And then you needed to engineer the financing to ensure that you had a stream of funds coming in to undertake the projects that the president wanted done. And then, of course, COVID hit. Okay? Of course, the president himself understood that the economy that we had was weak. That's why he came up with the 1D, 1F thing. So that you can begin to build the industrial base of the country. So there was a plan. And in building all these things, you have to also what? Equip the natural, not just the natural resource base in terms of the value addition, but also the human resource base. You need to equip them. So the spending in TVET, the spending on education. So all these things they were trying to do so many things around the same time. And he has to be funded. He needs to pay salaries of NACOP. He needs to pay salaries of this, salaries of that. More teachers, more nurses, more doctors. And then COVID hit it. But I think one thing that we forget, okay, I think the problems actually compounded not just because of COVID and not just because of Ukraine-Russian war, but something happened in the 2020 elections. The MPP lost its majority in parliament. And for the first time in our history, we had a speaker from the opposition. And we keep forgetting the impact of that. If you remember, go to the trend and see when the budget was thrown out. If you look at the numbers, you see that's when the foreign investors in our domestic bond market started pulling their money out. And then the rating agencies started downgrading Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay? And then your policy, your revenue generation policy called A-Levy also took about 4 months and ended up being cannibalized before it was passed. Okay? So when all these things were happening, what it showed was that you had lost the capacity to manage your economy because you were not in control of your how long did it take to pass this so-called D-Levy?
It went under certificate of urgency.
Absolutely.
Overnight.
Absolutely. And I understand that even it will raise more money than E-Levy. Yeah. How long did it take to pass the E-Levy? 4 months, 5 months? And all this while, your investors and your creditors are looking at, is this government able to manage its economy. Okay? They had over 100 companies that had tax exemption in Parliament to be passed for under 1D, 1F. They were not passed. There were things that government wanted to do, but had absolutely no control of the legislature, because you had a speaker who will play ball when it suits him. Okay? And you had an opposition which were doing their job, because opposition is what? Its first job is to oppose. You know? So I think that the challenges that the government faced after losing its majority in Parliament and still holding on to the executive, those challenges should be better analyzed, and then you then begin to appreciate the challenges that the country went through and the decisions that the government itself had to take. Okay. You know, but I think that, and we all know the difficulties. Kanu Furata almost lost his life when he had COVID. I believe November or so 2020. Yeah. 2020.
Yeah, 2020 November.
Okay. And I was with him when he was being taken to the Mayo Clinic for treatment. And when he got there, they couldn't even believe how he survived. And he recovered, and there were still complications, and he still served. Okay? And he still served. So if now he tells you that, look, my heart is clean. Yes, there may be certain decisions that you may question today, but I know that I did not take a penny. I did not do anything against the state for personal gain. But at the moment, I have this health issue, and it's not new with Furata to deal with. I've been given a date. Let me sort it out and come back. And then you think that you will call him what? A fugitive? I mean, it's for me, it's an evil decision for anybody with conscience to take. For someone who has not shown that he is afraid to face justice and has given you no reason. It's not as if he left the country when you said you were looking for him. He sneaked out of the country. He didn't. I thought that was very unfortunate, unnecessary, and you cannot destroy a reputation that's been well fought over the decades, not just in politics, but particularly in the business arena, and just by an emotional press conference say that about the man. I thought that was very unfortunate, and hopefully he will recover, and the Ken that I know, he will come back to face the law. And I know from my conversation with him that his conscience, he believes his conscience is clean, because whatever he did, he may have gotten it wrong in some instances, but he did it with a clear conscience and not for personal gain. Okay. And I hope that he'll be given the opportunity to do so.
We're looking forward to that day. For now, we pray for his speedy recovery. It's 9:37. This is a conversation that's going to go on to 10, which means we technically have 23 minutes, and I've got 1,000 questions. So brace yourself, Gabby, and we're going to speed through that one. But Anointed Engineering Services, who are into sale of ultra-silent, fuel-efficient diesel generating sets ranging from 5 kVA to 3,000 kVA at competitive prices, are able to sort you out if you're looking for a gen set. And if you acquire it from them, you'll enjoy a 5-year warranty. They'll also undertake the maintenance and repairs of all kinds of gen sets, whether you bought it from them or not. You can locate them at number 77 Anointed House on the main Odoko Malam Highway near the Odoko traffic light. They also have 21 branches around the country, so look out for them. They also train, so if you're looking to get into the business of fixing gen sets, well, this is the time to get to know them. Anything from generators, plants, auto mechanics, electricals and controls and solar installations, and they'll take care of you. They give you 80% hands-on and 20% out of the book. Call them on 024-3480-334 or 0540-100-868. Anointed the generator experts. And if you're looking to take the family off somewhere to relax, Penolive is the new family resort nestled in the Salt Pond Regis. Very serene, peaceful escape into nature. And they embrace the distinct ambience of the Salt Pond region. So they will take care of you, whether you're looking for continental or local cuisine. They will take care of that. They have a 6-foot adult pool with an outdoor bar and one for the children. And in fact, when it comes to children, they have a giant children's play set with an inbuilt slide and trampoline. And if you want to play badminton, basketball, volleyball, lawn tennis, they have a games court that takes care of all of that. Give them a call on 059-8868-218 or go to Tangerine Lane behind Lighthouse in Salt Pond, which is where you'll find Penolive. You can still send an email to info@penolive.com. Penolive Family Resort, a haven for the family. 20 minutes to the top of the hour, and if you just joined us, we're having a conversation with Gabby Asare. He's the man who birthed the vision that brought Asasi to us. 5 years on, we're talking everything Asasi, everything Gabby, everything NPP, and everything Ghana and the African continent. So we're back from this short break, and I'm going to maximize the next 20 minutes. Hopefully ask all my 1,000 questions. And this one has to do with post-election 2024. The New Patriotic Party set out to try and understand what may have contributed to the loss of the election. And as you did say earlier, Gabby, that it is not the fact that John Mahama won that surprises you. It is the how the NPP lost that surprises you. What's your view on the Okwe report? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. And I remember asking Akufo-Addo, was in the report. Even he hasn't seen it, which I think is quite unfortunate.
Wow.
That, yes, they haven't had the decency, I must say, to give him a copy. The president, he hasn't seen it. Well, yes, and I think that's quite unfortunate, because I've heard it being quoted. I've heard the General Secretary quoting it, even the flag bearer for 2024, who rightly so must have a copy, is also quoting from it. But the president has not seen a copy. They haven't. They didn't think they don't think it's important to give him a copy anyway, and he won't ask for it. If you feel he deserves it,
I'm sure he will take it.
But you see, I haven't seen the Okwe report, but I think that the Okwe report, I hope it starts with Professor Okwe. Okay, and I say so in a very the point I made, in a sense that you remember the MPP wanted to repeat Okwe, Professor Okwe, as a speaker.
Yeah,
and that didn't fly. And that's where the MPP problems, if you like, began. So I hope that the Okwe report takes into consideration that. Okay, once he didn't go through, then their issues started. Look at all the things that the government couldn't pass. And I hope that the minority leader now will find a way to articulate those things. Maybe call him here so that people understand the challenges that the government faced. Even on the matter of reshuffle, if you look at those who lost out, some of those who lost out in earlier reshuffle were among those who led some of the problems, the challenges that the executive faced in Parliament. Yeah. So I think really that report itself, whatever it is, I haven't seen it. I don't know what to say about it, but I can see that there's a group going around talking about constitutional changes in the party. I think it happens, it's quite normal when you lose elections. You review, find out what is wrong, and see how you can correct it in time for the next election. Okay. And I hope, and some of the stuff we've been hearing, it's expansion of the electoral college. They have to be careful.
Okay.
In 2009, when Akufo-Addo, McMahon, and all of them sat down to expand the Electoral College, the first thing that they thought they could do is they asked, how are we going to fund it? And I remember those days, Kenneth Frater and the others had an answer to that. Because from some numbers that I've heard, if you expand it as they wish to expand to what, 400,000, 600,000, how much will it cost you to organize the
primaries and
precisely?
Yeah.
And what steps has the party taken in terms of a membership drive to raise that money? So they have to look at all those things and take decisions that they can fund, and not rush into taking decisions, because it's good to expand the Electoral College. It's good to look at the Electoral College. But if you're expanding it, it will cost a lot of money. Are you ready for it? Have they started any membership drive that we can say that it will raise you the 30 million or whatever that is required to do an enhanced Electoral College, to do the primaries for that? But I believe that the process of looking within to fix some of the things that are required to be fixed, I'm sure they are looking at that.
Right. Now, talking about the expanded college leads me to the party's own leadership race. I mean, every morning on the ABS, somebody will call in and greet someone they believe will become, will assume a position. I mean, this morning someone mentioned Hawa Kumsin. Sometimes people talk about Dr. Baumia and Kennedy Japan. Oh, who incidentally is celebrating his 65th birthday this morning.
Oh, happy birthday to him, Ken.
Yes, we did talk to him, and he said that he's using today to preach unity and peace within the party. What do you make of the leadership race? Should the NPP give Dr. Baumia a second chance?
I think that if you ask me about the race, I think it has been, if you look at it, a lot of leaders who fail in the first attempt, or in some cases even second attempt, they make a case to be given a second chance.
Okay.
And I believe that Dr. Baumia himself knows that he has a responsibility to make that case for a second chance. And I believe if he makes a strong case, a persuasive case, he'll be given that second chance. But it's up to him to make that case.
Okay.
Because it's not given to you automatically because you went to a contest and lost. It happened to Kufuor, it happened to Akufo-Addo, so it happened to you. No, it doesn't work. You have to make the case and convince the party that 2028, you stand a good chance. They stand a good chance of winning, and under your leadership, that you can lead them towards that victory. Yes, I'm glad to hear that Kennedy Japan is talking about unity. Some of us, the challenge we have is the quality of contest that they will run. Because for those of us who were key members in Akufo-Addo's campaign as flag bearership, he was absolutely clear: do not attack. Do not attack. I know I'll be attacked because they see me as a front runner, but do not attack. Let's go and show to the delegates, to the people within the party, that I can win them the power, and two, that we know what it takes to take the other side on and to bring us all together. So those are the things that they should focus on. That make your case, okay? And the thing of internal contest is different, because you have a short period to hold that contest against your opponents within the party, and after that you need them. You need their supporters in order to go for the big contest itself. And my fear is that if we are not careful, we may not get that kind of clear-cut victory as we saw in previous elections, okay? And if you don't do that, then it means that you need to bring people back together. And it may be difficult if you make the contest very, very bitter and vitriolic. So I hope that they will focus on telling the delegates why they think that they should lead the party. Who are the ones contesting?
Well, at the moment, Kennedy Japan has overtly said he will.
Yeah.
Dr. Baumia, of course, is assumed and believe he will. But I don't know. I think Brian says he sent out an explanatory.
Brian, well, definitely. Brian is contesting. I mean, it's clear that Dr. Baumia is contesting. That you can't say that he's the one to beat because he was the previous presidential candidate.
That's right.
Kennedy came second. So you could say that he's the main challenger. And Brian appears now to be maybe the dark horse. Aduchum, I understand, is also getting ready to contest.
Okay.
I'm just seeing the video of somebody also trying to, but I haven't had opportunity to. But it appears that, who is that? Huh? Who?
Joe
Gate?
Joe?
Joe Gate.
Yeah, Joe Gate is up.
Joe Gate is contesting. Or one. So it'll be interesting. But they should really convince that, because 2028 is interesting. Because for the first time, you have a certain president who is not going for a second round.
True.
Unless if Freddie Blaze to be believed, then maybe.
Yeah, what do you make about that Freddie Blaze thing, actually?
Let's put that aside for now. Okay, so, and I noticed something in 2020, and even to a point in 2012 and 2016, the country is unforgiving. The electorate is unforgiving. And especially the young voters. Okay, they are hungry for change. They are hungry for things happening. They don't have the patience that we've seen since 1957. Okay, so winning a second term is not even, it's not given. What we saw earlier, that you will get 2 terms. Okay, John didn't get his second term. Okay, Akufo-Addo's second term, he almost lost parliament. Or you could say he lost parliament. Once you lose a speaker, it means you've lost parliament. Okay, and you've lost your clear majority. If your minister, 2 or 3 of your ministers decide to go to some conference in some remote places outside the country, you've lost your majority. Yeah. Your MPs who are ministers. So that thing that we took for granted, that every ruling party will get a second term, it is not forgiven. It's not a given. It's really not like that anymore. And we've seen it. And I think you've seen it from 2016, and it's happening now.
Yeah.
Okay. But then what makes it even a bit more complex is the fact that the president himself will not be able to stand. It's not that it's the country that will vote him out. He will not be able to. So they'll come with a new candidate. So 2028, if you ask me, it's anybody's game.
Okay.
It's anybody's game. And it is up to the MPP that immediately after the contest, how do you bring everybody together? Because when John Mahama was contesting in 2020, 2024, and even 2016, it was clear that he was the runaway favorite. Okay, when Akufo-Addo was contesting, it was clear that he was a runaway favorite.
Okay.
Can we say the same about the MPP this time? If you ask me, it is Baumia and being challenged with others very close behind him.
Okay.
So whatever it is, whoever wins, if it's Baumia, he needs to bring everybody on board as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's Kennedy, he needs to bring everybody on board as quickly as possible. If it's Brian Achampo, he needs to bring everybody on board. If it's Gabby Asare-Darko,
are you gonna run?
Absolutely not. I beg you. Is Rocky running? I've seen some video
of Rocky
obeying.
Nah, well,
that's not what he's saying. I haven't watched the video. But whoever wins,
yeah,
okay. And I think really, whoever wins, the difficult task is how you bring the party together. But I think that, and because I'm not expecting a 90% victory, as we saw earlier, is the more reason why they have to keep it clean and bear in mind that when you win, and you will win because one person will win, you need to bring people, all the others on board. And I hope that it will be about issues. It's not about certain sentiments and that sort of thing. Let's keep it clean.
All right. We've got only 6 minutes. Let's dive. You talked about sometimes working late and having an understanding wife. What's life at home like?
Life at home, it's a blessing, I should say. It's a blessing. I think I have 5 lovely kids and all doing well in their various ways. I have a wife who is a partner, more or less. I mean, because we do business together, and there's a clear understanding. I think in relationships, what matters is respect, mutual respect. And sometimes you become friends. It doesn't mean that you agree on everything, but you have to respect each other. So home, and before my wife was Chelsea supporter, now she's Arsenal. That has really made life a lot easier at home. Yes, but unfortunately she took one of our daughters to Chelsea.
Oh,
yes,
and she stayed.
I think she stayed, but because she watches more Arsenal games at the Emirates, I don't think she's even been to Stamford Bridge. So I think she'll come along.
You think she will?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the mother did come along, right?
Yes.
So yeah. All right. Okay.
But it's good. I think really, for me, I think a lot of, and when you have a wife who is doing well, okay, who sometimes I even tell my wife that she earns more than I do, and she doesn't agree. But I think the reason why I say so is that me, the party people think sometimes they own you, so. but I think it's because she also knows how to look after her money, and I find her more intelligent than I am. I find her more responsible than I am. I find her more together than I am, and I encourage her, and I'm proud that I have a wife who is better than me, in a sense, and I'm not intimidated by it. Okay, I'm proud about it. And I think really the thing about a relationship is that you should encourage the other person to be the best version of themselves. If it's about studying, encourage them. It doesn't matter, and we should get to the stage where we should allow women to grow, professionally, and because if you can afford to have a chef, why should your wife be the one who, if you come from work, she should be the one who should cook for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can, and sometimes it's not even about being able to afford it, but giving someone else a job.
Yeah.
Okay, so that your wife can then focus on the other things that can add more to your value and the family's value as well. So I am lucky, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are a few men like that. But let's encourage the women to grow. And when they grow, we all benefit.
I totally agree with you on that one. Quite a number of comments on our Facebook stream, many referring to you as a mentor from afar. In a minute, what would your advice in this day to young Ghanaians be?
That's a good question. I think really they should not look at where Gabby is, or where Ishra is, or where whoever that they look up to is, they should inquire as to how they got there. Because, people just see where you are and they think you got there by chance. Well, there could be a bit of luck. Okay, but it takes a lot of hard work. When people are sleeping, some of us are burning the midnight oil. Okay? And it takes a lot. So don't just look at where a person has what you see. The things that you see, the success. Don't look at the success, but focus, interrogate how the person got there, the hard work that they put in. A bit of it could be luck, a bit of it could be all that. But let's focus on putting in the hours, the shift. When you see a runner doing 9.8 seconds, it took them about 10 years to get there. But you see the end product, and for me, I wish Ghana well. I'm not the sort of person who thinks that a party in office must fail in order for the party that I support to win, because I think we should elevate the competition and show that we can do a lot better. I think in the current president, it's probably the most prepared president that we've had. In a sense, from assemblyman all the way to where he is now, vice president, been president, you've gone to opposition, you've seen 8 years about who your real friends are, you've seen the things that you did wrong, you see the opportunities that you missed, the things that you can do better, and you've been given another opportunity. Okay? How do you take us to a level that the youth, because at the end of the day, the youth are unforgiving. They want jobs. Yeah. They voted for you because they know that they expect the aspirations to be met by your 24-hour economy, the rest of it. And satisfying them in this world of social media, new media, and every little thing that the government does is overexposed and exaggerated and the rest of it. But you cannot forget that you are there to meet not the aspirations of the people, but to meet the space where you create opportunities for them in order to pursue the aspirations. And I hope that if the government does that, in allowing the youth the opportunity to pursue the aspirations, the youth will then have to also focus on the hard work that they have to put in order to achieve that. But they should look beyond Ghana. Opportunities are on this continent. On the continent. Some of us, that's what we are doing. We are trying not just to focus on Ghana. And now you can be in Accra, you can be in Konongo, and with your tools, your digital tools, you can reach out beyond the boundaries of our country. And I think that you should start looking at the opportunities, not just within the territorial borders of this country, but what is it that I can do to benefit from this single market that we are creating? And I wish them well. It's not going to be easy. It has never been easy. But it's doable. But it's doable.
Fantastic. Well, true words, and thank you. I think it's a pretty good time to end this conversation, even though I have... when should we expect your memoir? Because I think that's probably the quickest way
I'm afraid to write it because I will say so many things that I may lose all my friends.
Oh. Okay.
So give me time. But I'm writing it.
Okay, good. Well, I'm very happy to know that you are writing it. Gabby Asare-Darko, chairman of Asasi Broadcasting Company. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an interesting conversation, and it always is when we talk to you. So thank you, and then to the next 5 years.
Arsenal will win the.
Oh yes, we will. Yeah. We will. It's a shame if Partey leaves, he wouldn't be a part of it. But if he leaves,
if he
leaves. Okay. Well, we're ending this conversation with a song. I think Black Sheriff is a cool guy.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.